We are going to show you how to change every fluid in your Mini Cooper, starting with the easiest, the windshield washer fluid, and working our way over to the hardest, the brake fluid. So the windshield washer fluid is the easiest. You start with the blue cap right on the front right here. Make sure you get the right washer fluid for the temperature in the area. Then you just fill up your washer fluid. And if for some reason you have to drain it, basically fill a hose with liquid, hook it down, and it will drain right out. Okay, that was easy. The next fluid we're going to change is the oil. If you haven't yet, please make sure you like and subscribe. My name is Ethan, and welcome to Car Creations. For this car, we need about 5¼ liters of oil, which is about 5.6 quarts. On this car, it says to use 5W30, but if you look online, Mini says that you can use 0W20 or 0W30. It shouldn't really matter that much, but make sure you check your car, because if your car takes 0W30 and you put 5W30 in it, it might have trouble starting in the cold and it might affect the fuel economy. So make sure you go with what your car says. And also, don't forget to get a new filter, because else, what's the point of having an oil change? And then to make sure that the oil will drain properly, it's actually nice to warm up your engine a little bit. Now your engine shouldn't be hot, else you will definitely burn yourself. So I just drove around my car around the backyard, it came back, and I think it should be warm enough. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is find the oil drain plug. So I guess I just have to lift up the car. Now the nice thing about Minis is that you don't actually have to worry about taking this cover off under the engine, because there's just these little flaps that you can just undo and they will come right open. At the front you have the oil filter, and the back you have the oil screw. So first we're just gonna get our rather oversized catch can. And remember, it will come out on an arc, so maybe put it a little bit farther to the right. All right, getting our 17 mil. All right, so I cracked it loose. Now I can just finger and tighten it. Watch as nothing comes out. My car is completely dry of oil. Now if you just hold it in there, it's gonna stem the flow a little bit until you can get your hand out of the way. There we go. Look at that, easy as pie. Now we're just gonna let it come out. Yeah, this is pretty dirty. It definitely needed an oil change. We're just gonna wait till the flow to pretty much stop. So once it's drained out, we're just gonna thread this back in. Then we move on to the oil filter. And that's a bit closer to the camera. So for this, you need about a 32mm socket. Make it loose. You might get a bit of oil on yourself. All right, so apparently I had that wrong. It's actually a 55mm Torx to get this. There you go. Oh, not that bad. So this is the old oil filter. So what we have to do now is swap this one over to the new one. Alrighty, so this is the new one. It's for BMW. The part number is 11428570 Hopefully you wrote that down. Get this off. So that comes off like that. Work on the new one. There we go, just like that. New filter, and pop it in. So we're gonna get the new plug. We're gonna hand twist it in. Then what you're gonna do is hand twist it into the oil filter spot. Don't tighten it down with anything, because if you do, next time you do an oil change, you ain't getting it out. Filter's in, the drain plug is tightened. It's now time to lower the car and put the oil in it. It's very recommended to use an oil funnel if you have one, because else you can get it all over your engine bay, and then when you go to sell your car, people are like, is your engine leaking? You don't want that. So we're gonna fill up this, and, oh, I just spilled. Come on, Ethan. It's hard to talk and pour. So we're gonna fill this up, and then we're gonna start the engine and let it run for a couple minutes, and we're gonna check the oil through the infotainment system on the car. Let's start the car and measure the oil. So what we're gonna do is go over to Mini, and then vehicle status, and then engine oil, and then measure engine oil. Now it's gonna tell us that we need to go for a longer drive to measure the engine oil. All right, so we're gonna reset the indicator light for the oil. So basically what you wanna do is make sure the car is off, hold this down till it pops up, go through, and then hold down the one you want to reset. Reset progress, there we go. The next change we're gonna do is the transmission oil. For this you need ATF6 oil, or if you have one of the 8-speed gearboxes, you need the Aisin 0WS for that. So for this, it's just a 6-speed, and use the MTF 5100 with an SAE of 75W. This should work fine because it's a high performance fluid and it's from Liquid Moly, which is a pretty good brand. So for tools, you need a funnel with a bendy neck, or make sure that the bottle of oil you has a long spout. Or to make it even easier, we have here a transmission fluid pump. Now, this sells pretty cheap on Amazon. We'll leave the links down below, of course. It's really nice to use, but if you want to save a few bucks, you'll probably go without. So the process is very similar to the oil change. Find the transmission fluid drain plug, which happens to be right here on this car. I'm gonna get my friend to do this, and I'll go behind the camera. But basically, all you do is a hex 8, crack it open, drain it out.
So with this part now, we've drained all the fluid.
Tighten down the drain plug to about 25 Newton meters. Once that's drained, all we have to do next is refill it. Just above it, there is another hex 8. We just crack that open, and that's where we fill it.
Put that inside the transmission. And we have flow.
Now, you know it's filled when it starts coming out the fill plug. Once that happens, we are set to go. And once you've filled up the transmission, you want to tighten that fill plug to about 30 Newton meters of torque. The next fluid we're going to change is the coolant. We're going to use this stuff called the blue stuff. Basically, it's an antifreeze plus coolant mixture specifically made for German vehicles like BMW, Mini, or Mercedes. And I specifically like this one because it's already diluted with distilled water. So the first step is to drain the coolant. You can just remove the lower hose and it just drains right out. Depending what part of the hose you use, you might just want to use a pair of pliers just to squeeze the clip so you can get the hose off, or you can use a trim remover tool to pull the metal clip out. I'm gonna say this right now, flushing the coolant is not the easiest thing to do. Very handily for me, this bumper is only tacked on because what we need to get to is the little hose about right here. That's how I was taught to empty the coolant. If you know something better, please leave it down in the comments as we would really appreciate it. So drain all the coolant out, make sure you get it into a catch can. Coolant waterfall! And then the next step is to fill it back up. Now, skip this step if you're not doing a flush, but if you are, reconnect the hose and fill it up with distilled water. Turn on the engine and turn up the heater as well as fans to high for about 5 minutes. This will kind of allow it to circulate. Then once you've done that, drain that, and now it's time to fill up the blue stuff coolant. Now once again, make sure you have the hose connected, and we're gonna fill it up, start the engine, turn up the heat to max, as well as the fan to max. Let it circulate for around 5 minutes, and while it's doing that, open the bleeder screw on top, and allow the bubbles to escape. It can also be helpful to squeeze the radiator hoses and you'll see a ton of bubbles arise if you do that. Finally, top off the coolant, take it for a short drive, really watch the temperatures to make sure they're not rising. And if they do, you might have to end up putting some pressure on the system. And we can show you how to do that in a different video. But most of the time, all you really have to do is simply take off the cap, squeeze the hoses a couple more times with it on, let the rest of the bubbles escape, and you're set to go. So the next thing we want to do is change the clutch fluid. Now this only really applies to manual cars, so we'll go over this really quick. But basically the clutch shares the same reservoir as the brake. Just locate the slave cylinder. It is right here underneath the transmission, and then open the plastic bleed screw with an 11 millimeter. Now, it may be helpful to have someone else help you with this, to sit in the car because they're gonna be pumping the clutch. And what you wanna do is get the catch can, and you want them to pump the clutch until you start seeing the bubbles be replaced with a clean stream of brake fluid. Now, when you're doing this, make sure that you often refill up the reservoir with the .4 synthetic brake fluid. If you don't do that, then you can actually bleed your clutch dry and you can get a lot more air into it. All right, once done, replace the screw and you should be good. Now we get to the brakes, and the process is pretty similar to the clutch procedure. Basically, we're gonna need another person to help. We need the .4 brake fluid, and what we're gonna do is remove the bleeder screw and get the person in the car to pump the brakes as we bleed it, kind of like we did the clutch. So when you do this, you wanna work your way from farthest away from the brake fluid reservoir to closest to it. Rear right caliper, rear left caliper, front right caliper, front left caliper. Undo the bleeder screw and we get the person in the car to pump the brakes 3 times and hold. And out will come a long stream of probably bubbly brake fluid. Hold. What you want to do is repeat that step over and over and over again until you get a clean stream. Now once again, just like the clutch, really you want to be topping off the brake fluid every second time that you do this to make sure you don't run it dry, because you'll have a bunch of issues if you do that. And that's everything. Your car should be good to go. Do not go with the fuel or the aircon, because the aircon actually needs a pressure machine to flush and then refill it. Unless you get one of the little canisters, but they don't really work that well. And if you accidentally put diesel in your car or something and you have to flush it, that's kind of out of the scope of this video. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave them down below, as well as any comments. We really appreciate it. Most of all, we hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one.